Goodbye, my love, goodbye. Goodbye and au revoir. As long as you remember me, I'll never be too far. Goodbye, my love, goodbye. I'll always will be true. So hold me in your dreams till I come back to you. See the stars in the sky above. They'll shine wherever I may roam. I will pray every lonely night that soon they'll guide me home. Goodbye, my love, goodbye. Goodbye and au revoir. As long as you remember me, I'll never be too far. Goodbye, my love, goodbye. I'll always will be true. So hold me in your dreams till I come back to you. Goodbye, my love, goodbye. I'll always will be true. So hold me in your dreams till I come back to you.
Demi Roussos, ladies and gentlemen, what a voice for you, Marg. Good morning to you all. Welcome and thank you for being here. We gather today to mourn the passing of Geoffrey Macfarlane. Charles Geoffrey, if you read on your orders of service, but known to us all as Geoffrey or Jeff or Dr. Mac. We gather to say our final farewells, and we gather to pay tribute to Geoffrey's long life of 91 years. And I'm going to say that on any level, we can say a long life very well lived, and equally a rest very well deserved. You know, when we offer a tribute, a farewell to somebody we've known and we've loved, amid the sadness, it seems that a time of intense reflection, it seems to overcome us. And you find yourself thinking, who was this man that we have loved? A man, a husband, a father, a grandfather, a friend, a work colleague, a doctor, a man of medicine, a healer, a man of community. And you may have noted the small reflective piece written by Robert Louis Stevenson on your memorial card. In a précis form, it's very, very close, very, very close. And I've got to say, the other day when I went to Margaret and Jeff's home, and she said, "Oh, you'll recognise the house because Jeff's old red Land Cruiser's out in the driveway." And I've been wandering around with this old red Land Cruiser in my mind for the last few days because there are people here, I am sure this morning, I know there's one lady who has had Geoff as her GP for 41 odd years. I know our Rachel has had the privilege of being brought into this world by Geoff, and to be able to arrange today. It's an awesome thought. In the middle, an old red Land Cruiser, everything in the middle, and the wonder of being able to bring a life into this world. I find it remarkable. Geoff was a free thinker. He wasn't confined. He was a man of intelligence. He was a man of wisdom. He was a man of blood, sweat and tears in everything that Geoff did, in all aspects of his life. Whether it be, as I say, being a family GP, bringing wee ones into the world, whether it be gardening, that monster garden at Cairnholm, 500 trees on that 2 acres. I don't know whether that includes the 250 odd roses, Mark. It's an immense effort. It is an immense effort. And the old red Land Cruiser comes into thought again. Driving adventures. Long distances was what Geoff really enjoyed. Mind you, exploring one-car roads may not have been the greatest thing for his daughters, sitting quietly, supposedly in the back. But Geoff, with wisdom, welded a netball, basketball ring somewhere on the cruiser so that it was available to the girls for a bit of a break. I think it's brilliant. He was very multi-talented. He was very humble. But he could do anything, you know. Well, you do know this. Whether it be welding, and in Geoff's own words, it was cocky poop welding. Now, for those of you who have never held a welding implement in your hands, it's not a straight line that fills every little nook and cranny to create a really strong bond. A little bit here and a little bit there. But the fact is, and the girl said this, that Dad was very self-demeaning. So I think his work was pretty good. He mocked himself, which alludes to his being humble. At Brett Street, Cairnholm, he actually constructed a netball ring, another one. But the secret to this one, with everything of that sort, there's a regulation height. Well, this one was at least a foot taller. Reason? So that the girls might achieve a much higher standard of netball skill or basketball skill. And I wrote here, I can't find it at this moment, so the girls could practice and be better for the extra effort of a goal. It's sort of, you could use that as a philosophical point, couldn't you? He had a strong connection with language. He'd say, look it up yourself. If the girls asked, look it up yourself, which is the way it should be done. And I doubt, and I wrote this, I doubt that Geoff would subscribe to looking for words on the net, rather to speak them, to communicate face to face, so you can see people's eyes, you can see their body language. He had an amazing brain, very articulate, and a gifted speaker. And we say again, Geoffrey has taken his allotted years by both hands. And while living those years, he's left a legacy such as we celebrate today. And I shall say no more. Those who have known and loved this man, which is all of you, We'll share memories and yarns a bit later on. And Geoff loved his music, and Margaret mentioned, Marg, you said the other day that Geoff loved belting out the tunes. So the stereo cranked up with a bit of volume, but Geoff's singing. It's amazing. It's just amazing. Which is a perfect segue, ladies and gentlemen, into the magnificent voice of Paul Hughes. Paul, where are you? I saw you over there. Please, accompanied by Philippe Grauer. Come up, men, please, and share with us Panis Angelicus. And Paul, we acknowledge you as a very, very long-time friend of Geoff and Margaret, and thank you for performing this morning.
Angelicus, fi panis hominum, dat panis celicus figuris terminum, ores mirabilis, mandocat Dominum, pauper servus et humilis. Pauper servus et humilis.
Please, ladies and gentlemen, please. Thank you, Philippe. Thank you, Paul. Beautifully sung. And now he's looking around in the gloom. Tim Gibson, where are you parked, Tim? Come on, please come up and share with us.
Charles Geoffrey Macfarlane, always known as Geoffrey, Geoff or Dr. Mac, was born on the 3rd of January 1933 in Hobart, the only son and middle child of Charles and Alice Macfarlane. He had an older sister, Betty, and a younger sister, Margaret. Geoff was educated at Burnie Primary and Burnie High Schools, finishing at the Friends School in Hobart, where he finished as school prefect. Geoff was a skilled rower and won the Head of the River in 1949 and 1950 and was captain of rowing. In 1950, Geoff was Open State Champion for shot put. He had a long and varied tertiary career, commencing a science degree at the University of Tasmania, then becoming an engineering assistant. Geoff would often comment that if he had 10 lives, one of them would be as an engineer, the other 9 he would be a GP. He moved to the mainland to transfer into second year of a Bachelor of Agricultural Science at Dookie and Melbourne University. In 1955, he was a member of the champion university rowing crew whilst residing at Ormond College, and was selected for the 1956 Olympic rowing team, but could not afford to take a position. It was not until 1958, after a period of illness, that Geoff was well enough to finish his Bachelor of Agricultural Science. The following year, he decided he had studied everything but the most interesting animal, man, so commenced his medical degree at Melbourne University, graduating in 1964. To pay his way through university, Geoff secured a job as a night watchman at a car park behind George's. He spent many a night on the job reading Grey's Anatomy. He also drove postal vans collecting mail from the many post boxes across Melbourne. Geoff married Margaret Ramsay Webb in 1963, and his first position after medical graduation was at the Royal Hobart Hospital, where Susie was born. Over the next few years, the Macfarlane family travelled with working periods at Geelong Hospital and Burnie Hospital in Tasmania. Geoff only came, his words, to Bairnsdale quite by accident, as we ran in my brother-in-law's new Porsche. On the 21st of August 1967, the Macfarlanes moved to Bairnsdale, with Geoff joining Dr. Ron Palmer in a small practice in Service Street, now part of corner Amcal Pharmacy. Second daughter Katie was born in October of that year. In 1968, Geoff was appointed medical officer at the hospital for the town of Bairnsdale. Then, with the discovery of oil in Bass Strait and his early involvement in the care of offshore workers, he was appointed medical officer to Esso Petroleum, International Divers and the offshore contractors of Ingrams and Comex. In July 1968, Dr. Burke DeVogue joined Geoff in the Service Street practice. Both Geoff and Bert saw enough potential to take the plunge and purchase a corner Main Street home and convert it into what became the Main Street Medical Centre. The same month, wife Margaret Ramsay had convinced Geoff to purchase Cairnholm at Picnic Point, and in 1970, youngest daughter Megan was born. With over 50 years of ownership, Cairnholm was a special place of celebrations, including middle daughter Katie's wedding. Geoff put in an enormous amount of work to make the family home look its best. It was a wonderful venue for fundraising events, open gardens, and a scene of many happy weddings. This was a testament to Geoff's generosity of spirit in sharing his beloved home. From 1969 to 1975, Geoff was on the committee of the East Gippsland Ambulance Service, and he also aided in educating the personnel by providing lectures in his own free time, what little free time he had. He became a life member of this service. Geoff became a host mentor and tutor to Monash and Melbourne University medical students, with the Main Street practice becoming the first country practice for training students. In 1970, Geoff was appointed to the Australian Standards Association Committee, working on a compressed air standard, which was approved in 1971 and was used worldwide. He was a certified examiner in diving medicine for the Health and Safety Executive of the United Kingdom. He was also an occasional lecturer to the Royal Australian College of General Practitioners in diving medicine. From the 1970s until 1985, Geoff made multiple appearances in arbitration court proceedings as a witness for all aspects of cases involving the diving industry. Geoff was also Medical Officer of Diving to the National Safety Council of Victoria until its demise in 1989. He had gained a diploma in diving and hyperbaric medicine at the University of Sydney in 1979, and by 1988 he had been awarded a foundation fellowship from the Australian College of Occupational Medicine. He was known worldwide for his knowledge, experience and abilities in the diving industry, and was often on the end of the phone at home at all hours, providing advice to an overseas chamber operator treating a diver with the bends. It was always a great delight for him to hear that the diver had returned to the surface without any lingering side effects. One of his most memorable experiences, and with no thought for his own safety, was spending 9 days in a decompression chamber on board the derrick barge 21 in Bass Strait, whilst monitoring the fate of a man, Charles Krebs, paralysed from the neck down following a diving accident. While Geoff had considerable experience and skills, some courage was required, as undertaking decompression at such a depth for 9 days had never previously been attempted. This case was written up in many diving publications. Geoff was awarded the Order of Australia Medal in 1985 for his services to the offshore diving industry. After about 8 years with MS, Margaret Ramsey died in December 1981. 2 years later, Geoff married Margaret Fiedler. Between 1992 and 1999, Geoff was a representative for the Gippsland subdivision on the State Council of the Australian Medical Association. In 1994, he established the East Gippsland Division of General Practice and was the founding chairman until 1996, serving on the committee until he retired in 2001. He provided services to the RVBNS, which is the Royal Victorian Bush Nursing Service, as a lecturer. He was also invited to join the Professional Services Review, a peer investigative body. He took this on as another challenge, calling it the Naughty Doctors Board. In January 2000, Geoff retired from full-time general practice and continued to do locums for a further 3 years in Omeo, Lakes Entrance, Moe, Traralgon, Morwell, Swiss Creek, Maffra, Hayfield and Rosedale. Now this is quoted from Geoff's writing about a GP's life. "You're not a doctor," May said one day. "You are my friend." Perhaps Geoff's greatest compliment. There are two great arts in being a GP. Firstly, to recognise intelligence independently of education, a common problem in rural medicine. And secondly, to be able to make your patient understand that you identify with them, that you comprehend their poverty, frustrations, their inflicted cruelty, their hopes, fears and aspirations, their depression and their sense of helplessness. Mostly you have 5 minutes, or they are left wondering and insecure. The courage to ask for help in the first place implies a big ask. To fumble it is a disaster. That first contact, several a day, requires an enormous sense of responsibility. Neglect at this stage can kill or maim. Failure of perception or understanding can destroy a life or family. Why subjugate oneself to this horrendous responsibility and challenge? In order to satisfy the need to be perceived as being needed, to be worthwhile and to justify one's sense that the privilege should help those less so. Geoff practiced this philosophy frequently. The above is just a very small piece of Geoff's thoughts and musings on what it was like to be a rural GP in Bairnsdale. He loved and thrived on the challenges, and in doing so, touched an uncountable number of lives. But we also must remember he was a much-loved husband and father, and to share him with the community was at times difficult, to say the least. Jenny Stevenson, who worked in very closely with Geoff, stated that his compassion knew no bounds. He treated patients from all walks of life with unparalleled care, often waiving fees for those in dire financial straits and even covering the cost of their prescription when needed. His generosity exceeded beyond medical care. Dr. Mack's approach to medicine was deeply personal. He never distanced himself emotionally, feeling each patient's joys and sorrows as if they were his own. He, Jenny goes on to say, taught me the true essence of compassion and care. Geoff was inducted into the Bairnsdale Rotary Club on the 4th of July 1989. Within 6 months, he had presented a paper to the club entitled Rotary, AIDS and Education. The club was so impressed, the president appointed a subcommittee to examine the AIDS issue. It was arranged for this presentation to be also included in the district Rotary conference, and as a result, Rotary became more proactive on HIV and AIDS education. Within 12 months of Rotary membership, Geoff was appointed Community Service Director, and it was in this year Rotary became involved in assisting with the maintenance of the old section of the Bairnsdale Cemetery. It would be very interesting to estimate the number of litres of Roundup Geoff used out there since 1990. Geoff was appointed as a member of the Cemetery Trust in 2004, and he financed the beautiful garden area on what was once a barren, unsightly space, as a memorial to his parents and to Margaret Ramsey. In 1997, Geoff's daughter Katie married Geoff Petridis in the lovingly prepared gardens of Cairnholm, and grandsons Ari, Dominic and Leo were born in the years that followed. Geoff and Margaret hosted students from Germany and Finland. Jan was made to sit and read The Age before going off to school each day because, in Geoff's words, if you don't do this, you will never be a brain surgeon. Poor Jan did not become a neurosurgeon, but he is a neurologist in a major Berlin hospital. Maybe Geoff's influence. Geoff was to later get involved with ROMAC, which is Rotary Overseas Medical Aid for Children, and in July 2000 hosted a child and his uncle all the way from Bougainville, pre-surgery, with many trips to the Royal Children's Hospital, pre and post-surgery. Young Chris had a severe facial deformity, tessia cleft, and he spent time at Cairnholm doing much to promote Chris's recovery, along with promoting ROMAC in the wider community. Geoff's addiction to Roundup. As an aside, he diligently sprayed all the roses at Cairnholm, as has been stated, over 200 of them, early one Sunday morning, only to discover on the last rose he had used Roundup instead of a fungicide. Margaret Ann was roused from her sickbed to get outside pronto to hose all the roses off and pick every flower and bud. Rather than waste not, want not, those roses were taken around to many people's houses, and if they weren't home, they were even put in their toilet bowls, buckets, or the trough that was handy. It took 24 hours for the frost to melt at Cairnholm that day, but only one rose succumbed to the Roundup poison. Continuing from the Roundup addiction, as the cemetery was not fulfilling his total need, he took on the Phillips Lane Adopt a Highway as a Rotary project. Geoff was used to doing things solo during his working life, and so rarely called on others to assist him. This strip of the highway should be perhaps renamed the Geoff Macfarlane Boulevard. Geoff also satisfied his glyphosate addiction with assistance at the Botanic Gardens and the Urban Land Care Group, serving on both committees. Give him a spray gun, a tractor, a chainsaw, and a trailer, and he was in heaven. In June 2005, Geoff was awarded a Rotary Paul Harris Fellow. There are many more stories, incidents and experiences that could be shared, and I'm sure you will all have a special memory of Dr. Mac. Keep them in your heart and treasure them as his family do. He gave so much and expected nothing in return. His wicked sense of humour, his devilment, his practical skills, his intellect, his loyalty and his work ethic will never be surpassed. Margaret wishes me to convey to you, her colleagues and friends, and you know who you are, her extreme gratitude and thanks for help and support in caring for her dear Geoffrey over the last 10 years. It has been a long road, but now take the time to remember the man Geoffrey was as we say farewell to him. He will be missed beyond measure. And in Geoffrey's words, good on you, mate, and God bless.
Beautifully done, beautifully done. Time to pause, ladies and gentlemen, for a time, and we're going to watch a photo presentation of Geoff's life with a couple of ripper, and I know what I'm supposed to say, very nice pieces of music, but they're a couple of ripper pieces of music. So sit back and enjoy these memories. Thank you. Gosh, some memories there. Just amazing. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're able to, please, when our tribute to Geoffrey's at an end, if you're able to stay with us, all you need to do is move out into the catering area, into the foyer. And if you're able to, please, the family would love for you to spend some time together and laying out some of those wondrous memories that we mentioned before. Now, memories are one thing and tributes are another. Susie, Katie and Megan, please, if you all want to come up together.
So it's a sad time, but also a time to honour and farewell our dad. Our dad was many things, but one thing we are sure of is that he strove to make the world a better place. As a child, his parents instilled in him a deep sense of responsibility to others, as you've heard today. Dad felt deeply the emotional and ethical responsibilities that went with his role as GP. He valued education highly and cherished being able to apply what he had learnt and continued to learn to help others through his work as a GP, but also to continue to improve the profession through his involvement in medical associations and to enhance his local environment through many community projects. Dad respected and saw humanity in everyone, recognising that each of us is a complex person with our own history, values and perspectives. He cared deeply about the welfare of others, going beyond medical care to seeing the big picture and the whole person. He often saw and offered support to people in crisis after hours and on weekends. He had a mind of his own and valued independent thinking. He enjoyed an argument, challenging us to defend our views, and at times into the wee hours. He pondered things deeply and developed his own views and ethical framework. He spoke frankly and didn't shy away from controversy if he felt something important was at stake, or even at times when it wasn't. We've heard in the eulogy of his many and varied achievements. He had the capacity to create a long-term vision and work steadily to its fruition over years and decades. Dad worked incredibly hard and possessed drive, determination and perseverance in spades. As kids, we were often working alongside him, mowing lawns, carting bricks, completing large and small projects until they were done. So Dad, being your daughter was a bit like boot camp at times, but thanks for instilling your work ethic in us. Dad was a practical and resourceful person, adventurous and with great initiative. He liked working and needed to be useful. A lifelong learner, skilled in many areas. He was curious and appreciated nature, watching its processes in detail in his many adventures and also from the veranda at Cairnholm. He loved exploring the landscape, history and geology of Australia and other countries and took us kids on adventures in custom-made four-wheel drives in far north Queensland and the Flinders Ranges. He even welded a bike rack and yes, that netball ring to the roof rack of the truck for us. We drank from the water distillery he built and ate his delicious homemade bread. While Dad was a serious person, he also had a robust sense of humour and could be playful and mischievous. We enjoyed his uproarious laughter. Dad loved the poetry and science of language and words. He studied French and Latin and was extremely articulate in English. He would often insert pertinent quotes into everyday conversations, and he made sure we could also all recite the poem Desiderata, which he displayed in the house. If we asked Dad what a word meant, he would often respond by telling us its Latin root and meaning, so we would gain a fuller understanding. He wanted to teach us things, but also wanted us to be able to learn for ourselves. Dad pointed out that the word doctor is derived from the Latin verb docere, meaning to teach or a scholar. This reflected his conception of his role and that a doctor had a duty to teach others. Dad would be so proud of his grandsons, Ari, Dominic and Leo, with us today in person and online from overseas, who have inherited his gift of teaching. Leo, training to be a teacher, remembers Dad teaching him the structure of a cell in great detail, perhaps beyond your interest, Leo. And Dom recalls Dad explaining how to read the weather from the clouds. And as we look back over 91 years of Dad's life, we acknowledge and thank the many people who inspired, guided, supported and cherished him. His parents, Charles and Alice, who he greatly esteemed and sought to emulate. His sisters, Betty and Margaret, and their children, Penny, Simon and Andrew in the US, and Ali here today. His teachers, professors and mentors, who he often spoke of, invariably with admiration, approaching reverence. His co-workers over decades at the Main Street Medical Centre and Bairnsdale Hospital, beside him through many challenging situations. His friends, including Dr. Bert Vogue, with whom he shared a great friendship and professional partnership spanning 7 decades. Bert and Lookie's lifelong friendship with Mum and Dad, and ours with their children Renee and Steve and Pete. We cherish our family's deep connections in many ways over many decades. And last but not least, his cherished companions in life, our mother, Margaret Webb, and Margaret Fiedler, who loved and supported Dad for over 40 years. Dad was a member of and cared for this community for over 56 years. He would love to know that some of you here today he delivered and brought into the world, or whose children he delivered. We give thanks to you, Dad, for giving us life, for giving us love and care, for your values, your ideals and your example. This will inspire, encourage and nourish us all into the future. In closing, and to quote Dad's words about his mum Alice, "For your life and ours, we are truly grateful. For your devotion and your dedication to the community at large, let us all be grateful." Dad, farewell.
Go placidly amidst the noise and haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. As far as possible, without surrender, be on good terms with all persons. Speak your truth quietly and clearly, and listen to others. Even the dull and the ignorant, they too have their story. Avoid loud and aggressive persons. They are vexatious to the spirit. If you compare yourself with others, you may become vain or bitter, for always there will be greater and lesser persons than yourself. Enjoy your achievements as well as your plans. Keep interested in your own career. However humble, it is a real possession in the changing fortunes of time. Exercise caution in your business affairs, for the world is full of trickery. But let this not blind you to what virtue there is. Many persons strive for high ideals, and everywhere life is full of heroism. Be yourself, especially do not feign affection. Neither be cynical about love, for in the face of all aridity and disenchantment, it is as perennial as the grass. Take kindly the counsel of the years, gracefully surrendering the things of youth. Nurture strength of spirit to shield you in sudden misfortune. But do not distress yourself with dark imaginings. Many fears are born of fatigue and loneliness. Beyond a wholesome discipline, be gentle with yourself. You are a child of the universe. No less than the trees and the stars, you have a right to be here. And whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt, the universe is unfolding as it should. Therefore, be at peace with God, whatever you perceive him to be, and whatever your labours and aspirations. In the noisy confusion of life, keep peace in your soul. With all its sham, drudgery, and broken dreams, it is still a beautiful world. Be cheerful, strive to be happy.
The Desiderata is as pertinent today as it was when it was written in 1927. The words, the wisdom contained in those words are almost a guide to life. Thank you, girls, very, very much. Now, Bert, come on. I'll excuse the noise while we set this up, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Oh, you got it. Hello, everybody. It's good to see you. Jeff and I first met at Auburn College in 1955, nearly 70 years ago. Jeff was studying agricultural science and I was studying medicine. We rapidly became good friends. Jeff completed Ag Sci and then switched to medicine because he realised medicine was more interesting. Whilst at university, we worked together at the pub on Friday nights, pouring beer. We also worked at the Grand Central car park opposite the Queen Vic Hotel as the car park attendants. We would start our shift at 9 p.m. and go through till 7 a.m. It was the perfect job. We could study after midnight. We would then ride our motorbikes back to the college to start the day's lectures. No helmets, no gloves, just a gabardine raincoat. Jeff and I stayed in close contact over the next decade until we decided would be good to work together. We started private practice in 1968 in Bairnsdale and called it the Main Street Medical Centre. We worked long and hard providing the best care possible excuse me, for our patients. Although our bedside manner was different, Geoff and I made really good work team, completing each other's skill sets. Geoff became an excellent anaesthetist, and I enjoyed the surgical procedures. We never had any surgical or anaesthetic deaths. We were both really proud of our abilities. Geoff developed an interest in deep-sea diving medicine. We accessed a decompression chamber located in Malakuta to treat the abalone divers with the bends. After spending 20 hours in a decompression chamber and weeing into a bottle, I decided that area of medicine was best left to Geoff. Geoff was a competent and caring GP. He was an excellent diagnostician. We would discuss complex cases and do ward rounds together to give our patients the best possible care. If you have a true, if you have a true loyal friend for 7 decades of your life, you are a privileged person. I'm grateful to Geoff not for being my partner, work colleague and best friend for 70 years.
Thank you so very much. Thank you, Bert, very, very much. And now, ladies and gentlemen, one of Geoff's grandsons, Ari, come on, please come and share with us The Sounds of Silence by Simon and Garfunkel. I'm sure that your grandfather would be so proud. Wonderful. It's time to say farewell to Geoff, and there's just so many thoughts, so many memories over such a long, long time. We have people here today that have been touched literally by Geoff, delivering babies, being delivered, being brought back to full health. We've got great friendship, long, long friendship, and the darkness and the unknown when you and Geoff bought that block and that house, Bert, you wouldn't have any clue was whether it was going to succeed or not. And look. I saw the photos and I saw a man knee deep in water in his swimming pool, repairing it with "I love Mark" dribbling in paint on the back wall. I saw photos of the girls with their father. I saw beautiful photos of his grandsons. These are the things we take with us. And another thought just popped into mind. I don't know whether those of us who require the nurturing of our GPs and our docs, but it seems to me, and nurses among you may have recognised this. Tim mentioned earlier about having so many different layers simply for a day's work, because if one of those layers doesn't click, calamity may occur. But I've noticed our docs, as they come to work, chat away, then it's almost as if a switch is flicked and all that immense knowledge and experience comes into play for that time, and yet in amongst that knowledge and experience is the need to recognise, as Susie said of her dad, the ability to connect with people and be part of their lives. A small community as Bairnsdale would have been back then when Geoff and Bert started, it becomes community, because you see people in the supermarket, you see people at the footy, you see people at Rotary. And once you get past "oh, will you fix my little finger, please?" the depth of involvement and gift of our docs is immense. So I'm saying to all of you out there today, the practicing doctors still and those retired, thank you for your gift to your community. And I go back to this little piece who filled his niche and accomplished his task, and who leaves the world better than he found it, who's never lacked appreciation in earth's beauty, or failed to express it, who looked for the best in others and gave the best he had. Dr. Geoff Macfarlane, ladies and gentlemen, if you feel that you'd like to, please join with me in the words of the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Before we begin our final tribute to Geoff, this beautiful, beautiful piece of music, it's Handel's Messiah. When Margaret and I were setting up this part, Margaret said, I'm going to tell you the background to this beautiful piece. You see, I'm going to ask you to all stand in a moment. It's a tradition to stand during Handel's Messiah, and it began with King George II, who stood up during the debut performance. the Hallelujah Chorus in 1743. Now, in itself could sound very, very pompous, but what if it's Margaret's way, the girls' way, our way of saying thank you, Dr. Mack? So ladies and gentlemen, could I ask you all please to stand? We're going to listen to this magnificent song. Just think, you've stood just as King George did all those years ago. Please stay with us into the foyer, and thank you all so much for honouring Margaret, Megan, Katie and Susie and the boys. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Jason.